Everyone, I need you to gird your loins. The review of the year is happening. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bodacious Rant. That's easily become one of my favorite lines in the last few days, just because this is one of those movies I haven't watched since it came out, ever. So, and the sequel came out this weekend. So for those of you who haven't guessed by that line, we're going to be talking about, I think, an anticipated sequel since its announcement, which is The Devil Wears Prada 2, starring Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, Emily Blunt, Stanley Tucci, Kenneth Branagh, Lucy Liu, and Justin Theroux. And again, when I was younger, Devil Wears Prada came off like not my type of movie whatsoever, because I just saw the fashion stuff, and I'm not very fashionable at all. I'm super simple when it comes to that. So, but having watched that movie and these ones, it's like, I see the appeal, and I understand it now. This is a spoiler-free review, so we're not going to ruin it for any of you guys, especially if you all are, the Prada fans and whatnot. So if you did happen to like the movie and you like tuning in for us, feel free to give us that thumbs up to show your support. And as always, ring the bell for notifications and subscribe just to join our community and just rant along with us. Also, too, before I get started, if you guys haven't checked it out already, our spoiler-free review of the latest horror movie, Hokum, is out too. So check that out, and then feel free to watch this. But let's get started. So The Devil Wears Prada 2 definitely takes place literally 20 years after the first one, which is mind-boggling. It's been that long. And essentially Anne Hathaway's character, Andy Sachs, is definitely a more mature, more accomplished journalist in the industry, and she ends up having to work again with Miranda, played by Meryl Streep, due to an issue at the Runway magazine. And that's when she's just brought in with familiar faces like Stanley Tucci's Nigel and Emily Blunt's Emily, which is, I think, hilarious. But everyone's just more mature in this one in a way. Like, sometimes they're still very familiar, but I'm glad that they've actually grown up with this story. So that's something I definitely appreciate with a franchise. I mean, not a franchise yet because it's just these two, but like with the story from the first one, I'm glad it actually feels like an evolved version of it. So again, I never watched it until recently, mostly because my girlfriend finally beat me into it. Not literally, but just she got me to watch it, egged me on. And man, that movie's so good. Stanley Tucci's my favorite character out of all of them. And then, oh my God, Meryl Streep. I hated her so much in the first one because it's like just the insanity behind working for her. I see why she was the damn devil. I'm gonna stop myself from ranting. Byrne, I believe you have seen the first one. So if you have, let everybody know what you thought of that one, and what were your thoughts going into this one? Were you excited for it? Did you feel like it was unnecessary? What you feeling, my dude?
I really enjoyed the first one that came out, as you mentioned, 20 years ago now at this point. Good Lord. But, that movie just felt like it was like lightning in a bottle, right? Where it felt like instantly iconic, even for people who didn't watch the movie at the time. It was like inescapable when it came to like the quotes and just like all the references that people would make about it. But, I really enjoyed it when it came out, and never did I think we would get any sort of like sequel or follow up to that movie. It kind of felt like its own little thing that everybody seemed to enjoy. Meryl Streep got an Oscar nomination for it, which is cool. So yeah, it was like one of those. It felt like a moment in time, And now 20 years later, when they announced that there would be another one, I thought, okay, that could be interesting depending on like how they do it, right? We've gotten a bunch of legacy sequels now at this point, and some are better than others. So I was curious to see how this one would do, like all these time later, like what they would try to say with what kind of story did they have with these characters. And for the most part, I think it was pretty entertaining. I mean, I think like you mentioned, all these actors feel like they just slipped right back into these characters. Now, like you said, in real time in the movie taking place 20 years later, grown up and in like different stages of their lives. And I thought the script did a really good job of reintroducing them to us, and now this like modern world where not everything can go the same way as it did 20 years ago. So that was a lot of fun, and it served a lot of laughs. Meryl Streep, of course, she's fantastic. She's great. She has a lot of fun with this role, and they give her a lot to work with here. And a lot of the comedy beats come from her character. And Anne Hathaway and Emily Blunt are, again, they're just very dependable actors where they come into these roles and they just work. They make it work. And then like you, Stanley Tucci is one of my favorites. So I think seeing him again was a ton of fun. And yeah, it was fun catching up with these characters. But is the story one that is worth telling, right? And I think surprisingly, I think it is. I think in our discussion we were talking about how the first one sort of talks about toxic work environments and sort of with the backdrop of fashion, sort of amplifying those things. And this time it decides not to do the same thing, which I really appreciate. A lot of these legacy sequels want to just do the same thing as the first movie did, and just repackage it. And here, this is a new and updated version of that story that we already told. But this time around, I think pulling back a little bit away from the fashion. Well, I do think it strips a little bit of the fun away from the movie, like the first one had. I do think the story this time around is equally as interesting. I think looking at Runway as sort of a publication, right? And we all know how publications are being treated these days with the onset of technology and just consolidation across a bunch of different businesses. How is a fashion magazine going to survive in that sort of environment? And I thought it was interesting that the movie decided to explore something like that. So I think you do get the breezy fun, traversing across the world and going to these cool fashion shows, and I think you get all that, and you get a story that does feel timely and does feel like it's commenting on a lot of the things we're noticing nowadays. So very interesting that this one decided to go that route, and took me by surprise, certainly.
Yeah, because like I said, I never watched it just because, to be honest, it was a very girly pop movie, I felt like. But after watching it, I think it's actually one of the more brilliant stories, I like with a great subplot that, yeah, on top it's about fashion and struggling in a big city, kind of like a Babe in the Woods character, Anne Hathaway in the first one. But really, it has a lot of great commentary about, not only toxic work environments, but also the effects that, being a workaholic has on someone, and the mentality that kind of grows with that, almost in a negative way. So I there was a line in the first one too that Anne Hathaway says that, yeah, everybody thinks Miranda's a monster, but if she was a dude, then nothing would be commented on that he'd be great at his job. And it's like, that's honestly a very accurate thing, I feel like. Because yeah, if a guy was very much like her, being very demanding and almost ridiculous and all that stuff, people think, oh, he's brilliant, he's just hardworking. But because it was Meryl Streep, even though she generally was a monster, it's like, oh, because she's a woman, it's like this. So I thought that was great. And honestly, with this one, I think it had some. I was worried about it, to be honest. I was like, man, 20 years for this sequel? Is it even something people want? Is it just going to be a rehash of the same stuff and, completely bomb, to ruin the name of the first movie? But honestly, no. I think it was very fun. I still like the first one better, but I like the commentary on, like you said, the evolution of, or however you want to look at it, the downfall of publication and physical media, and how it's become more online, and that AI is just oozing its way into every facet of industries. So I thought that was really great stuff. And yeah, everybody killed it. Almost everybody looks like they haven't aged a day, which is the scary and brilliant part of it. They all look the same from 20 years ago. And again, it felt like a very organic sequel, which I think is the biggest win for this one. So with all that being said, I'm going to give this, if I had to give the first one a rating, I would give it almost a 5 out of 5, a very high 4, and this one's no exception. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5 as well. It's still very fun, great date night movie for anybody who's interested in this kind of stuff or wants something to watch, with the missus or, Mr. or whatever. So yeah, definitely recommend this one whenever you want to check it out. But this is definitely, and not only is it funny, but it's a good heartfelt sequel in my opinion.
Yeah, I think this is one of those moments where getting the band back together worked out in the end. I think this movie does feel like it's the one that's sort of kicking off the summer, like slate of movies where this one has all the things you want. It has a lot of the fun elements. It's the comedy. It's the going to like cool, different, exotic locations, and the movie like it was shot on location, so it feels like like, oh, okay, we're actually going to these places and we're actually seeing them. It doesn't feel like, oh, this was shot in like a studio, or like done cheaply. Like it feels like they went out and wanted to make a fun, breezy movie that is a sequel to a cult class. Well, not a cult class. I think just a classic of 20 years ago. And yeah, for me, this one really worked. I think if I were to give a rating for the first movie, I would give that one a 4 out of 5 as well. And this one just comes in again, just slightly under that, just because again, it's kind of hard to recapture that magic that the first movie had. Again, just because it has the novelty of introducing us to all these characters, and this movie, it can't really replicate that. So yeah, this one for me is going to be a 3 out of 5. I think. You're gonna have a good time with this one if you go out and watch it, if you were looking forward to another one, or if you just wanted to see these characters again. I think this movie did a good job of making it, again, not sort of a retread of the first one, and giving us the fun references and stuff to the first one, but charting its own path and not feeling like we're just doing the same thing over again. So I really appreciate it for that, and I had a decently good time with this one.
It was a very fun movie nonetheless. So I'm glad. I'm just glad it was actually good, especially after watching the first one a couple of nights ago. I was like, oh god, this one better not suck, or else it's like, given it's always that thing. If the sequel sucks, you could always fall back to the first one, but sometimes it's hard just because the fact I know there's another one out there and that one sucks. It gets me. But anyways, 4 out of 5 for me, 3 out of 5 for Burn. We both really enjoyed this one. Definitely recommend it for you guys if you're fans of the first one, or if you just want something fun and upbeat to watch. So yeah, let us know what you all thought about in the comments. And until next time, everybody, I hope everybody has a great Mother's Day weekend coming up. Much love to all the mothers out there, because they produced you guys and you guys tune into us. So much love for all of you. Until
all the mother ranters.
All the mother ranters, exactly. That's a good one. I like that, Burn. That's why I keep you around, because you're so witty. But until next time, everybody, stay bodacious and keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.